Why does this happen? Why does a man stay loyal to someone who drains his energy, poisons his peace, and slowly destroys his confidence? The answer isn't weakness, it's wiring. Psychology and biology have built-in mechanisms that keep you attached, even when logic screams at you to run. These invisible forces turn men who are disciplined in every other area of life into prisoners when it comes to relationships. And unless you understand how the trap is built, you'll repeat the cycle over and over again. Different faces, same patterns. Every man believes he's too strong, too logical, too disciplined to get caught in a toxic relationship. He tells himself, I'd never put up with disrespect. If someone treated me badly, I'd walk away without hesitation. But reality is different. When you're inside the storm, it's not that simple. What you thought you'd leave behind instantly becomes the thing you cling to the hardest. And here's the paradox. Often, the worse she treats you, the stronger the pull becomes. Instead of letting go, you tighten your grip, hoping the pain will one day transform into love. Here's the forbidden truth. Toxic relationships don't feel weak. They feel powerful. They don't feel empty. They feel intense. And that's the hook. The roller coaster of pain and pleasure, of distance and reconciliation, burns itself into your nervous system like an addictive drug. Those emotional highs after brutal lows hit harder than calm, steady affection ever could. You don't cling because you're blind. You cling because your brain mistakes chaos for passion. The very volatility that should scare you away is the same force pulling you back in. That's why simply telling yourself to move on never works. Logic has no chance against biology. You can sit with your friends, list out every red flag, and admit out loud that the relationship is toxic, yet still feel an unexplainable pull to text her back, to see her one more time, to hope for change. Because the battle isn't happening in your rational mind, it's happening deep in your subconscious. And your subconscious doesn't care about peace. It only cares about survival. And here's the brutal reality. The longer you stay, the stronger the chains become. Toxic relationships don't weaken with time. They fortify themselves. Every fight, every apology, every breakup and reconciliation adds another layer of emotional cement. Soon, it's not just a relationship you're leaving, it feels like you're leaving a part of yourself. That's why so many men describe it like a prison. You think you're making choices, but the truth is the relationship is choosing you. And unless you learn to see the mechanics behind this trap, you'll keep surrendering your power to something designed to break you. The real trap of toxic relationships isn't just emotional, it's chemical. Your brain wires itself to crave the very person who's hurting you. Every fight, every makeup, every high and low floods your system with chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. These are the same neurotransmitters that make drugs addictive. That's why even when you know she's wrong for you, your body feels like it needs her. The craving isn't imaginary, it's biological. Dopamine is the reward chemical. But in a toxic relationship, it doesn't flow consistently. It comes in unpredictable bursts. An apology after cruelty, affection after distance, tenderness after cold silence. This pattern is called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the most powerful form of conditioning. Your brain learns to chase the unpredictable reward, just like a gambler pulling a slot machine handle. The less predictable the payoff, the deeper the addiction. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, makes things even worse. It's released during intimacy, touch, and sex. But here's the twist. Your brain doesn't distinguish between healthy intimacy and toxic intimacy. The chemical bond forms either way. That's why you feel tied to her even after brutal arguments. The same hormone that was designed to keep mothers connected to their children now keeps you attached to a partner who drains your soul. This combination, dopamine highs and oxytocin bonds, is what creates the emotional roller coaster. The lows feel unbearable, but the highs feel euphoric. And because the highs are unpredictable, you start chasing them harder. You stop caring about peace. You stop caring about consistency. All you want is another hit of that intoxicating feeling, even if it means enduring weeks of pain for one night of closeness. This is why toxic relationships feel harder to quit than healthy ones. A healthy partner gives steady affection, but steady doesn't trigger addiction. A toxic partner gives unpredictable affection, and that keeps you hooked. Your brain mistakes chaos for passion and calm for boredom. Until you understand this chemistry, you'll keep confusing addiction with love and mistaking the chains around your heart for proof of connection. Every man has an ego, and in toxic relationships, that ego becomes both the weapon and the prison. When a woman disrespects you, cheats on you, or manipulates you, your ego doesn't always tell you to walk away. Sometimes it whispers the opposite: prove her wrong. Show her you're strong enough to win her back. Make her see your worth. Instead of letting go, you double down, fighting for validation from the very person who stripped it away. This is the ego trap, confusing endurance with strength. You think staying means you're proving loyalty, toughness, and resilience, but in reality, you're just proving how deeply she controls you. Toxic partners exploit this instinct. They know the more they damage your pride, the harder you'll work to regain it. Instead of walking away, you step deeper into the fire, convinced you're strong enough to handle the heat. Men often pride themselves on loyalty. We're taught that real men never quit, that quitting equals weakness. But here's the paradox: in toxic relationships, quitting isn't weakness, it's survival. Loyalty to someone who's destroying you isn't noble, it's self-sabotage. Yet the ego twists this truth, turning escape into shame. You stay because you don't want to feel like a failure, not realizing that leaving is the real act of strength. Another layer of the ego trap is reputation. You worry about what others will think. Friends, family, coworkers, they all know about her. If you leave, they might say, you couldn't handle her. So instead, you endure. You hide the chaos, smile in public, and bleed in private. All because your ego is more afraid of embarrassment than it is of emotional death. Here's the brutal truth: the more your ego is bruised, the more desperate you become to heal it through her approval. It's like chasing a wound with the same knife that cut you. The more she withholds validation, the harder you fight for it. And that's exactly why toxic partners escalate disrespect. They know it doesn't push you away. It pulls you in because your ego can't stand the idea of losing. The ego trap convinces men that leaving equals weakness, when in truth, staying is surrender. You don't stay because of love, you stay because of pride. And pride is a terrible substitute for peace. Until you understand that your ego is the prison guard keeping you locked in, you'll never be free. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about breaking the illusion that suffering proves strength. Real strength isn't holding on to what's killing you, it's walking away. Some men think they're choosing their partners consciously, but the truth is, many of us are replaying old wounds without even realizing it. The women we feel the strongest pull toward often mirror the patterns we first experienced in childhood. This is where trauma bonds begin. When love and pain are mixed early in life, the brain wires itself to confuse chaos with intimacy. As adults, we chase what feels familiar, not what feels healthy. If you grew up in a home where affection was unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, you learned to equate inconsistency with love. If your approval had to be earned, you carried that script into adulthood. Now, when a toxic partner gives you attention one day and silence the next, it doesn't scare you away. It feels normal. It feels like home. This is why trauma bonds are so powerful. They don't just keep you attached to the woman in front of you. They tie you to the unresolved pain behind you. Your nervous system believes it's not just chasing her approval, it's chasing the approval of everyone who ever withheld it. That's why the bond feels unbreakable. You're not fighting for her, you're fighting for closure you never got as a child. This repetition compulsion explains why men often end up in the same kind of relationship, just with different faces. You think you're choosing freely, but in reality, your subconscious is running the show. It seeks out partners who recreate the same wounds, hoping that this time maybe the story will end differently. But it doesn't. The cycle repeats, leaving you more broken each time. Here's the cruel irony. The toxic partner who hurts you the most often feels like the one you can't live without. Why? Because she awakens the deepest part of your unfinished story. She feels like the one, not because she's right for you, but because she fits perfectly into the wound you've been carrying for decades. That wound recognizes her. It thinks, Maybe this time I'll finally heal. But instead, it just reopens. Men trapped in trauma bonds often say, I don't know why I can't leave. It doesn't make sense. And they're right, it doesn't make sense logically. That's because trauma bonds aren't logical, they're emotional. They bypass the conscious brain and hook directly into survival wiring. Until you recognize that you're not just addicted to her, you're addicted to your own unfinished past, you'll never be able to break free. The first step is brutal but necessary. Admitting that you're not just in love with her, you're entangled with your history. You're not fighting for a future with her, you're fighting your past through her. Until you see this clearly, you'll keep mistaking pain for passion and trauma for love. The truth will set you free, but only if you're willing to face where it really began. One of the strongest forces that keeps men trapped in toxic relationships is fear, specifically the fear of loss. You'd think the constant disrespect, the chaos, and the pain would make leaving easy. But the truth is, many men are more afraid of losing her than they are of losing themselves. The thought of walking away feels like cutting off a limb. It's not love anymore. It's survival instinct hijacked by fear. Part of this fear comes from scarcity. Men convince themselves that if they lose her, they'll never find another connection like it. They focus on what they'll miss, not what they'll gain. The irony is brutal. She's already draining his life, yet he imagines life without her as emptier. This scarcity mindset is one of the most dangerous illusions in a man's psychology. But beneath the fear of losing her lies an even darker fear, the fear of facing himself. Many men stay because the relationship, as toxic as it is, distracts them from their own emptiness. Her chaos fills the silence. Her drama keeps their minds occupied. If she leaves, they're forced to confront the truth they've been running from, that they don't fully know themselves and they don't fully love themselves. This is why many men describe life after leaving a toxic partner as unbearable. It's not just her absence they feel, it's the weight of their own silence. The emptiness becomes deafening, and instead of using that silence to grow, many rush back to her because even pain feels easier than facing themselves. This is how the cycle restarts, not because she changes, but because he refuses to. Here's the paradox. The very thing men fear, being alone, is the only path to freedom. Because when you face yourself without distraction, you finally begin to heal. You realize that the pain you've been avoiding isn't her fault. It's yours to resolve. She didn't create the emptiness. She only exposed it. And once you stop running from yourself, you stop running back to her. The fear of loss and the fear of self are the twin pillars of toxic attachment. Men cling to what's killing them because they don't believe they can survive without it, and because they're terrified of what they'll find in the silence. But here's the truth. What you'll find in the silence isn't death, it's rebirth. And that rebirth is the only way to reclaim your life, your strength, and your freedom. Breaking free from a toxic relationship isn't just about leaving her, it's about rewiring yourself. Too many men think freedom comes from blocking her number or moving cities. But if you don't change the psychology that kept you hooked, you'll just find another version of her in a different body. The cycle doesn't break when she disappears. It breaks when you change. The first step is awareness. You can't fight what you don't see. You need to admit the truth. You weren't addicted to her. You were addicted to the chaos, the chemicals, the illusion of love. Until you name the trap, you'll keep walking straight back into it. Awareness doesn't instantly heal you, but it gives you the map out of the maze. The second step is distance. Not partial distance, not we can still be friends. Real distance. Because every time you let her voice back into your life, you reopen the wound. You can't heal while touching the poison. Distance is painful, yes, but it's also detox. Without it, you'll never clear your system of the addiction. The third step is rebuilding yourself. Toxic love breaks you down, piece by piece. To escape the cycle, you must rebuild your foundation, physically, mentally, emotionally. Get strong again. Reconnect with passions you abandoned. Create a life where her presence is irrelevant. Because the more complete you become, the less room there is for toxicity to take root. The fourth step is replacing the narrative. Stop telling yourself you lost something special. You didn't. You lost poison. And poison disguised as love isn't worth mourning. Change the story in your head from "she was everything" to "she was the test I had to pass to find myself again." The story you believe will either free you or chain you. The fifth step is to embrace solitude, not as punishment, but as power. Toxic relationships thrive when you fear being alone. But once you master solitude, once you learn to enjoy your own presence, you become untouchable. Women stop being your escape from emptiness and start being a choice, not a necessity. That's when real freedom begins. Breaking the cycle doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, discipline, and honesty. But every step you take away from her is a step back toward yourself. And here's the truth. Once you truly break the cycle, once you taste life without chains, you'll look back and wonder why you ever begged for her attention in the first place. Freedom won't just feel good, it'll feel like oxygen. By now, you can see the full picture. Toxic relationships don't just hurt you in the moment. They steal your years, your energy, and your masculinity. They drain the best parts of you while convincing you that you're the problem. And if you don't break free, if you don't face yourself, those years don't come back. You'll wake up one day older, weaker, and filled with regret. Not because of her, but because you refuse to leave. This is the high cost men don't realize until it's too late. Toxic love doesn't just break your heart. It kills your ambition, your drive, your spirit. It makes you forget who you are. And the truth is, most men never recover. They stay broken, bitter, and hollow, telling themselves all women are the same. But it's not all women. It's the fact that they never escape their own cycle. But here's the flip side. Men who break free rise higher than they ever imagined. Because once you've survived toxicity, peace feels like power. Once you've been chained, freedom tastes like fire. Breaking free doesn't just heal you, it transforms you. You become sharper, calmer, more dangerous in the best way. You stop chasing validation and start attracting respect. That's the difference between a man who escapes and a man who stays. The choice is yours. You can keep telling yourself that staying is love, that you're proving your loyalty, that it's not so bad. Or you can face the truth. Every day you stay, you lose more of yourself. Every day you stay, you hand her another piece of your life. And once those pieces are gone, you don't get them back. The question is simple. How much more are you willing to lose? So here's my call to you. Stop waiting for her to change. Stop waiting for a miracle that will never come. She won't save you, only you can. Cut the chains, face yourself. Build the life you've been avoiding. Because the truth is, freedom isn't found in her arms. It's found in your own strength. And once you step into that strength, you'll never settle for chains again. If this message hit you, don't just nod and scroll. Do something. Start by hitting subscribe because this is just the beginning. Every week, I break down the hidden psychology of attraction, masculinity, and relationships, the truths most men never hear but desperately need. And I want you to be part of the men who rise, not the men who stay stuck. So subscribe, like, and share this video with a brother who needs it. Because the more men who wake up, the harder it becomes for toxic love to keep winning.